Good morning, One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. I'm so glad you're here. And I am going to kick us off with some music. This is actually a video, so I'm going to share my screen with you, except for that I don't have the right one up. So I'm going to get out of here for a second. Oh, it's not letting me. Well, isn't that interesting? Okay. So, view, exit full screen. There we go. Now I can do it. All right. So this is Patricia Bahia, who has some of the most upbeat music that we listen to, and I really like her. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I'm sharing my sound, so shouldn't be any problem. And here we go. Can you hear it?
People shouting, shouting like they got the answer. Louder and louder now, I'm drowning in a sea of anger. Quick to judge, pass the blame, assign the labels. Wish we'd all stop acting like we're strangers. If we could see underneath, we are one family. And it don't matter where you come from. Every heart beats to the rhythm of a one love. One love, one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. What if we could rise above division, look for the good, and take the time to really listen to everybody, every voice, every color. Give love cause we were made to love each other. And even if we disagree, we are one family. And it don't matter where you come from. Every heart beats to the rhythm of a one love. One love, one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. Beats to the rhythm. Every heart beats to the rhythm. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm. Every single heart beats to the rhythm. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm. Beats to the rhythm of one love. Every single heart. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. One love, one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. To the rhythm of one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. Beats to the rhythm of every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love.
Oh, yes, it does. I just thought that would be a fun way to kick us off this morning. Oh, it's nice to see everybody. And please help me welcome our practitioner of the day, Ralane. Are you there, Ralane? Yes, she is. Okay. Hey, I couldn't open that link you sent me. Was there a picture you wanted me to share?
No, that's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
All right. All right. So this is a story of faith. Okay. And the title of the story is How a Retired Kindergarten Teacher becomes the accidental guardian of 200 king penguins. So, Cecilia Duran Gaffo, I'm sure I'm not saying her name right, but I did the best I could. Um, she's a landowner at Useless Bay in Chile. Okay, Useless Bay in Chile. The king penguins make their home in the Southern Ocean, but they like the Chile's Tierra del Fuego region where Cecilia lives. For hundreds of years, it's been a natural protection for them because there's not any marine predators and humans can't bother them because that's why it's called Useless Bay because the explorers early on couldn't get their fishing boats in. It was too shallow and industrial fishing just no way. So they were pretty protected. However, there really weren't a lot of king penguins around. But Cecilia, who owns land there right at the Useless Bay, noticed that king penguins were starting to nest around the 1990s on her land. And as soon as they started nesting, these men showed up and they put them in cages, the penguins, and took them off and claimed to be scientists. But it turns out they weren't scientists. They were selling them to zoos and to people who wanted penguins as pets. So she noticed that, of course, all the penguins went away one way or another. So after a while, she noticed that the penguins were back. This was like quite some time. And what happened was that they came and then all of a sudden people showed up again, those humans, and they started stealing eggs for some reason, stealing the penguin eggs. And so they also did things that I guess they didn't realize were not very good for the wildlife. They dressed the penguins up in hats and sunglasses and took pictures of them as in selfies, and what happened was there were 90 penguins and then there were only nine. So again, it just with the human intervention, Cecilia could see that it was not working, and she was upset about this. And so she met with her daughters, and this is where the story gets much better and has a lot to do with faith. So they had a family meeting, the mother and the two daughters, and Cecilia said, "Who is going to save the penguins?" And the two daughters said in unison, "Mom." And so Cecilia, on her own, decided to patrol the beaches. So it's very cold there in Useless Bay. The winds, because it's penguin weather, right? The winds and the temperature. So she would patrol every day with a thermos of something hot and a sandwich to protect the penguins and talk to the people who came and told them not to take selfies and not to steal the eggs. And this worked pretty well. Then, like the next year, she had a lot of land, but not all of it is right on the Useless Bay area. But she cordoned off and fenced off about 75 acres for protecting the penguins so that the humans couldn't come so close and they could look at them from afar. But unfortunately, even though it was a place where there weren't any natural predators, people brought in invasive species predators, minks and foxes. And so they were eating the chicks and the eggs. And the penguins go out to forage out in the sea. And so they leave their chicks for a while because they're usually safe, but in this instance, they weren't. So by then, Cecilia had a few people that were working with her, and they went and got some little off-cut pieces of meat at the butcher, and they started persuading the foxes and the minks to go elsewhere, to hunt elsewhere, to come eat the meat that they were planting in other places. And it actually worked. And they also got dogs, and the dogs basically put scent everywhere, and the minks and the foxes didn't like that, and so they finally conditioned them to go away. But Cecilia, again, even though she had a small group of people that were helping her, she had to do nighttime patrols too, because these predators were nighttime predators. And she said that she loved to look up at the sky and see all the stars, and she just felt so connected, But the 3 a.m. shift was no fun. And she said she just went out anyway. So you can see Cecilia is quite a person. Anyway, so this went on for a while and it wasn't easy. You know what I mean? The chicks got eaten and the eggs got stolen and the foxes and the minks took a while to move on, you know. So this was years. And but over time, she developed a team of people that were helping her, and they were professional, you know, and um, she was able to actually create a reserve for these penguins on her land for the next 100 years. So that was just truly amazing. And now her team has biologists and veterinarians and ecotourism specialists. Now, what is an ecotourism specialist? Well, those are people that get people to come to see the penguins and understand the importance of climate change and protecting our environment and protecting the penguins and protecting the land. And so the ecotourism funds this entire conservation for the penguins. And 15,000 people now come a year to see these king penguins. And the biologists are noticing too that this is something interesting happening with the penguins, that penguins from out of the area are coming in also into this useless bay, and they're adapting right away. They're eating the local food. This is something they didn't think penguins could do, come from other areas, and they're doing great. And so this is a important finding for thinking that the penguins may be able to adapt better with what's happening with our environment. And Cecilia said 23 chicks, 23 penguin chicks survived last year, which is a record. So that was pretty wonderful. So I bring this story up because it's a beautiful story and it feels really good. But just think of Cecilia walking those beaches day and night in the cold and the wind and at 3 a.m. This is the faith that Cecilia had. That I don't know if she knew that how it was all going to turn out. I doubt it at all. But there was a belief in her that she could make a difference. And so I think it's important for all of us to we're not Cecilias, but we can be ourselves and we can have faith and do things that we never thought we could do to help the environment, to help animals and wildlife, to help people, just to help the world. So there you have it. I think it's pretty wonderful. I'd love to go visit, be one of those 15,000 people that go visit the king penguins. And then Cecilia is 72 years old, by the way, now. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's called keeping the faith.
there you go. Okay, let's pray. We'll let Cecilia and the penguins lead the way on this prayer. So we know that there's faith, and faith is God, and it's love and goodness and spirit and blessings and happiness and joy, and it's life. It's reverence for life. God is reverence for all life, all creatures that take a breath. And I know that we're one. We're one with the king penguins. We're one with Cecilia. We're one with faith. We're one with love. We're one with life, life force energy. We're one with the reverence for our planet Earth, and everyone and every being on our planet. We are one. And as we have faith, we have a belief in ourselves that we are really so much more than we know, and that we have so much faith that we can change the world. And I think that it's truly wonderful that Cecilia changed the world one penguin at a time, one penguin chick at a time, and also educated the people, you know? And so I think that basically there's just an important knowingness that we can really make a difference as we hold the faith and practice the faith in our life. And I'm so grateful for this telling this story. I'm so grateful for Cecilia. I'm so grateful for King Penguins. And I'm grateful for all you guys to listen to me tell this story. And for the higher good that comes from listening to this, knowing that resonance will continue to carry forth. We release this prayer into divine law, knowing that this service is perfect in every way and good and very good. And so it is.
Beautiful.
May's affirmation. Let me move this. I got something in the way here. Okay. I trust the quiet unfolding of the divine presence. I welcome the new expression of life moving through me. I say yes to fresh possibilities, new growth, and deeper truth. I am renewed and I'm ready. And I walk forward in faith, and so it is.
So it is. I loved that story. And it really exhibits the principle that I'm talking a bit about today, that even when the path in front of us is not visible at all, we keep moving forward, knowing we're moving in the right direction. It's beautiful, beautiful story. Love it, love it, love it. All right, I have another video. This is actually a recording from Mile High Church in Denver, but it was better than the recording. And so I thought I would play the live performance from Eddie Watkins Jr. because it's really quite beautiful. So let me get it up as a share here. I'm just gonna, let's see, share sound. And it's a song called What Would Love Do Now, which is kind of the point of the story that you read us. Can you hear the music?
Just before you say something you can't take away, take a breath, then let it out. Try to think about what would love do now. Wondering if you should cross that line for good. Whatever you decide, ask yourself from inside, what would love do now? Everything is either an act of love or a cry for love. That's why for love we try for love. In the end, that's all we know that's real. Whether right or wrong doesn't matter, just as long as you let your heart decide. Ask yourself from inside, what will love do now?
Oh dear.
Everything is either an act of love or a cry for love. That's why for love we die for love. In the end, that's all we know that's real. Whether right or wrong doesn't matter, just as long as you let your heart decide. Ask yourself from inside, what would love do? Sing it from inside with me, y'all. What would love do now? Let me hear you sing it, people.
What would love do now?
Sing it one more time for me, y'all.
What would love
Do now. Thank you.
Oops. I got my decided to keep playing for us. Oh, I love Eddie Watkins. He's great. Lisa was on, and then she texted me and said that she got kicked off, so she thinks she might as well just surrender. So she may not be joining us. Oh, Gisela, those are beautiful flowers. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Well, my friends, we're going to talk about faith. So just let me say good morning again. Let's just connect one more time. Good morning, One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. And I always like to include that whether you're here in real time or listening to the replay, everyone is welcome in our open and loving community, so wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you are welcome in this space. So, as Ralane said this morning, we're talking about an aspect of spiritual life and that probably everybody's familiar with faith. I mean, it's a pretty common theme within spiritual traditions. Even though we all might have different interpretations of what faith means and what it is. So, I realized as I began to really think about faith that it's really difficult to talk about faith without talking about the love of God or without touching on the peace of God or the abundance of God, the vitality, the joy, the wholeness of God, all of the aspects of God that we talk about. We can't separate these things from one another. I mean, they're kind of all woven together. They aren't isolated experiences that we pick and choose from. They're the experiences, all experiences of the same divine presence, moving through life in different ways, but really supporting each other. And I think the same is true for spiritual practices, not just spiritual principles. They don't stand alone. Affirmative prayer, for example, is not just a technique or a set of words that we repeat. It stands on an embodied understanding of the principles that we teach in Science of Mind. So affirmative prayer really becomes powerful, not because we say the right words, but because we align with the qualities of God that we want to experience. And we begin to live from the awareness that life is already whole. It's already present, already moving through us. Honestly, it's like a tapestry. If you pull one thread, the entire design moves with it. Faith touches trust. Actually, as I was putting together my talk, I had trouble kind of delineating between faith and trust. Trust opens us up to peace. Peace allows us to perceive abundance. Abundance awakes gratitude. Gratitude deepens us, and joy. None of these exist independently. A spiritual life stands on principle embodied through practice. A spiritual life is really less like a collection of separate tools and more like an ecosystem. I was thinking of an ecosystem like the forest, the trees and the soil and the water and the sunlight. They all depend on each other. If you take away one element, the whole system is affected. And the same is true for spiritual principles and spiritual practices. They're kind of inseparable. Many of the aspects of God that we call principles, we also use as spiritual practices. For example, last week I talked about flow. Flow as a spiritual principle. It's life's natural movement towards expression and evolution. And the practice of flow is learning to cooperate with that movement instead of resisting it, to flow with it. Compassion as a spiritual principle reflects the interconnectedness of all beings, the ecosystem. And as a practice, it's empathy and kindness and caring in action. Wisdom as a spiritual principle is the the deep universal intelligence, the order woven into life. And wisdom as a practice is listening to our intuition, discerning, sacred discernment, remaining open and curious. Spiritual principles are states of being that we feel and embody. And they are also realities to participate with and to live in. And our spiritual practices, whatever they may be, are a way to enter into a relationship with these realities. I've always liked that metaphor. You probably heard it for principles and practices. A spiritual principle is like the water in an underground well. It's always there, it's always available, just sitting there beneath the surface. All the qualities and aspects of the divine are always there, waiting for us to engage with them. All of them, the whole gamut: love, peace, faith, joy. Always, they're just a part of the deeper nature of life. But just like the water, we can't use it. We can't use these principles unless we draw them to the surface, draw them into our awareness and bring them into our lived experiences. And that's where our spiritual practices come in: affirmative prayer, meditation, forgiveness, gratitude. We talk about sacred giving and study and service. And these are the rope in the bucket or the pump, however you want to get the water out. They're what we throw down to draw up the living waters of spiritual principle that nourish our daily lives. And that's why spiritual practice matters so much. We want to know these spiritual principles as more than just ideas. We want to feel them and embody them. And spiritual practice opens that channel between what is eternally true in God and our human lived experience. So let's dive a little deeper into today's focus, which is faith, which Ralane kind of opens us up to. Faith is both the water and it is our willingness to lower our bucket into the water. Faith trusts that the water is there even before it rises to the surface, even before we can see it. Faith as a principle is the recognition that life itself is trustworthy, that beneath appearances, there's an intelligence and an order, a creative movement continuously unfolding. And we know as metaphysicians that faith is not in something, it's not a blind belief in some external force. It's an inner knowing that something deeper is holding us, guiding us, expressing through all of life, even when we can't see the full picture yet. Just like the woman in Ralane's beautiful story, she didn't know how it was going to end. She didn't have the full picture yet, but it's woven into the very fabric of existence itself. It's the seed's impulse to grow towards the light, and it's the tide's certainty of return, and it's just the quiet movement of life, constantly and continually becoming more of itself, which is love. And faith as a practice is how we consciously align ourselves with that deeper truth, the constancy of the water in the well. And my experience with faith is that it certainly comes alive for me in my deep moments of meditation and contemplation and prayer, but it also comes alive for me just in my daily living, in those little small moment to moment acts of just remaining open to the potential of life, even when things are uncertain. It's choosing to find the presence of God when I'm experiencing doubt or fear. It's continuing to participate even when I just want to pull away and disconnect. Faith as a practice isn't passive. It asks us to be open, to listen, to lean in, to take the next step before the whole path is clear or even visible. Faith as a practice is developing a solid foundation of certainty. I like that name, that word, certainty. I'm certain that this is true. I stand on this. A certainty in the divine presence and in divine good. And a foundation that's not swayed by what's happening in the events and the circumstance in the world around us, which, is not always the best news in the world. And also this is not a once and done. It's cultivated in consciousness and lived in our daily lives, but it is an ongoing practice. I have to remind myself over and over that the outside world does not get to inform my experience or what's going on with me or how I show up or whatever it is. I was thinking of that visual popped into my head when I was talking about faith. You may or may not have seen the Indiana Jones film, Indiana and the Last Crusade. I actually think it was the last Indy movie. And Indiana, the main character, which is played by Harrison Ford, and his father, played by Sean Connery, who is, may he rest in peace or have fun wherever he is. So they set off on this quest in the movie to find the Holy Grail. And toward the end of the story, after a series of events, obviously, Indy's dad is dying. And only the water from the cup of Christ, which is the Holy Grail, can save him. But the problem is that Indiana has to weave through 3 life-threatening puzzles before he can get to the Holy Grail. So he makes it through the first 2, and now he's faced with the final and most difficult test, the most difficult puzzle. He has to take a step of faith across an open ravine. I actually pulled this up on YouTube because I didn't have a picture of it in my head. I remembered the scene, but anyway, it's actually this big open ravine, and there's no footbridge, no rope ladder, nothing, just this open chasm that falls to, you can't even see where it falls to. And you can hear his father, Indy's father, in the background saying, "You must believe, son, you must believe." And so Indy closes his eyes and he steels his courage and he demonstrates his faith that he will be supported by stepping out onto the chasm. I mean, sometimes that's what it feels like to have faith, to step onto nothing that's there. And yet we know that the invisible support of God is there. Anyway, so he steps out. And once he puts his foot down to step out onto the empty chasm, a footbridge appears and it leads him across, and the way is made clear. And of course, he retrieves the Holy Grail. That's a whole story in itself. And then he brings it back to Sean Connery. And I mean, Indy's father, not Sean Connery. And then he's saved. And, isn't that what living in faith is? Living in knowing that we can take one step and then another, even when we can't see the entire path. Like the woman in Ralane's story, she didn't know how this was going to end, but she knew that she was doing the right thing and that life is still unfolding and still creating and still moving through us. And faith is both a quality of God and a lived experience. It's a principle and it's a practice. So given all this, let's really, really break down what the purpose of spiritual practice is, which, includes the practice of faith. And I was thinking about why do we really do spiritual practice? We do spiritual practice to create change in our lives, and it's not always because we don't like where we are, although that may be the case, but because the nature of life itself is to grow and expand and create. And there is a real joy in that ongoing expression. While we as human beings are unsettled sometimes with change, it really is what brings us fulfillment. So it seems to me that spiritual practice really does a few things for us. First, it helps us become familiar with where we are at the moment, currently. Who do we believe ourselves to be right now? What thoughts are we habitually thinking? What feelings do we have over and over again? And what is the overall atmosphere of our being, on a daily basis as a lived experience? Not necessarily what we say we believe, but where do we actually live? What thoughts and feelings, what state of mind have we habituated or hardwired, as Michelle or Lisa or Ralane? How do we live? And here's where we encounter what I think is the most powerful thing that spiritual practice does for it. It changes us in consciousness. It helps us habituate new thoughts, new feelings, and create a new state of being, which any good metaphysician knows will outpicture as our life experience. Our spiritual practice calls us to imagine and rehearse new thoughts, which sparks new compatible feelings. And when this is done over and over again, no matter what our current circumstance might be, we habituate new patterns of thinking and feeling and being. And they will, because law is constant and mathematical, they will demonstrate change in our outer lives. Let's remember that we live in a field of potential, an infinite field of information. We call it the mind of God or the quantum field or consciousness, but the field really doesn't care what you call it. And I personally believe that it is benevolent and loving. Science of mind teaches this. The field is the source of everything. And this informational field is ripe with potential. The potential for anything that we'd like to experience in our life. And through our focused attention, that potential turns into probability. And that probability impresses creative law. And creative law is impressed with whatever our focused attention dwells on, whatever our pattern of thinking and feeling is consistently. So spiritual practice is all about change. It changes consciousness, which changes our outer experience. The water from the well is felt by our participation with it when we get wet. And our spiritual practice activates that in our life as our lived experience. Now, there are several subtleties to this process. I just kind of went over one, that it's our consistent focused attention. And as most probably all of us know, because creative law responds not only to what we say we believe, but to the overall resonance we carry within our being, so here's what happens. So while our head might say one thing and be affirming our power to heal, and our feelings, our conditioned patterns, or our habituated beliefs may not be aligned with that truth. So there's another important part of spiritual practice. Whatever form it takes, it cultivates coherence within us. It brings our thoughts and our feelings and our inner state of being into harmony with one another, which has to happen for it to impress creative law, grab a hold and bring it into our experience. Because it's ultimately our state of being that impresses law. When our thinking and our feelings are aligned, when the pattern of our consciousness is coherent and in resonance with universal principles, we stop sending mixed messages into creative law, because you send wishy-washy messages into law and you're going to get wishy-washy outcomes. Our spiritual practice helps create that inner harmony, that kind of that deep inner congruence with universal truth. And as that coherence, thinking and feeling and being grows, something within us begins to change. A shift in consciousness occurs, and that shift naturally begins to express itself as a change in our lived experience. So, I always like to make things practical. So I thought it might be interesting, fun, informative, valuable to look at the way that faith kind of weaves itself through one of our most familiar and in my opinion, most powerful spiritual practices that we use in the science of mind philosophy. Thank you, Ernest Holmes, because I think spiritual mind treatment is really brilliant. He called it spiritual mind treatment, as you probably know, because it treats our mind. And our mind is the birthplace of perception and meaning and experience. And ultimately, it's where transformation begins. Because every spiritual practice at its core is about the change or the shift in consciousness that happens within mind and feeling, and the way that we relate to spiritual principle. So I'm going to assume that most of us here already understand that science of mind treatment, or affirmative prayer, as I like to call it, is not a prayer of petition to some distant God. It's a prayer of alignment, of realization, and of conviction. It's the practice of reestablishing ourselves in what is already true within that field of potential, the mind of God, and one life, which is everywhere and through everything. And when we look closely, every step of spiritual mind treatment actually cultivates faith, and an embodied trust in a deeper reality than appearance alone would suggest. So the first step of treatment is recognition. And here we begin here because we want to establish ourselves in the deep faith that there is only one life, one presence, one intelligence moving through all of creation. Recognition reminds us that beneath all appearances, there's wholeness, there's order, there's possibility, there's love, and that life is continually unfolding from this foundation, from this place. We want to stand here. And then unification, our second step, establishes us in that felt experience, that we're not separate from this presence, that the same intelligence that moves galaxies is moving through us. And this changes everything, because as we feel this unity, it builds our faith. And it dispels any idea that we could possibly be separate from it. And it awakens us to our oneness. When you're in that part of the prayer, of the affirmative prayer, you can feel your connection to this. And it's our participation within the divine. And then we move into realization. I always say this is where the rubber meets the road. Our faith becomes active here and creative and intentional. We consciously speak and embody the spiritual truth that we're aligned with. And not because we deny appearances, we can see what's happening around us, but because we're choosing not to grant the appearances, the circumstances, the events, any final authority. Here's where we step into our own creative agency and our freedom to create in God, in this oneness, in this unification. We place our faith in a deeper reality, we affirm our own healing, the wisdom of God that's within us, the peace of God that's within us, and abundance and love. And these aren't fantasies that we're hoping for someday, but they're qualities that are already present. We're announcing the truth. They're present within the infinite potential that is already in us and seeking expression through us. And we feel and live our faith in them. We stand on them. So that's faith in recognition. And then thanksgiving. Being grateful is one of the purest expressions of faith. Gratitude says, I trust the movement is already underway. We give thanks before any evidence arrives. And Thanksgiving places us in receptive relationship with life. It shifts us from striving to participating. It establishes us in a deeper faith. And then finally, the last step of treatment is release. And I've come to call this rest, because that's what it feels like to me. I just rest in this knowing. It's really a deep act of faith. We release our need to control any outcomes or to manipulate the timing or force solutions. We stop gripping so tightly. We rest. we relax, we are confident, we are certain in faith that it's already done, that our prayer is already underway. And it's an expansive rest. And when we sit in that, we allow life to move beyond the limitations even of our own imagination and to kind of soar in the imagination of God, because sometimes we just don't know what the right action is. We don't know what we don't know. And so when we live from this new consciousness, this new state of being, we're changed and we embody the change and we practice the change and we live from it. And as we do this consistently, we begin to live in that constant flow of the divine waters of life effortlessly flowing up from the well and pouring into our lives. And we create lives of peace and lives of wholeness and lives of love and lives of abundance and lives of joy. So let's just sit in that. And let's know together that God is. We are one in that. Our creative agency is powerful because we stand in faith in God and in our unity with it. We sit in gratitude that we are so empowered to create joyous lives. And we rest in knowing that it's already so. Let's just take a deep breath and say, and so it is. So it is. So it is. So yeah, it's sometimes it's really interesting and fun to dive into concepts, spiritual principles and spiritual practices that we use on a daily basis that we really just take for granted that we know, or we have explored all the richness that is there, because I uncovered a lot of stuff that I hadn't really thought about. Like I hadn't really thought, oh yes, spiritual practices establishes me in the coherence of thought and feeling and state of being, which of course we know is so incredibly important. So I'm not sure who is doing the sacred giving. Rob is. All right.
Lisa's not here, so it's a good thing it's me.
Yeah, she. Oh,
Oh, I was sorry that Lisa wasn't here. I noticed behind her with the brief time she showed up, she had next to her puppet friend Bella was a giant, looked like a stuffed penguin. So
oh, she.
maybe she knew that Ralane was going to do a penguin story. I don't know,
I
but I'm
don't
sorry.
think she did.
Oh wow.
I
Well, I
know.
could with her camera and her phone, she had a little different angle. So maybe it's something I don't normally see. But
Ah,
anyway, hey, I just want to say, as treasurer of One Heart, One Mind, I keep the books for the corporation, and it's we don't always break even. We probably do not break even more often than we do. But the last 2 months, I've done the books, and we have come out on top. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody
woohoo.
for making us keeping us on the air. Thank you all. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
it means a lot to me that you so consistently and so givingly keep our books. Thank you for that.
surely, surely. So, anyway, the same old places to send your money. Venmo works great. We have one of our people uses Tithely. We've got and Michelle dutifully deposits any checks you send her, so that works out great. And so thank you for that. And I think there may or may not be a sacred giving
There is.
declaration
There it is.
coming up. Almost here? There we go. I give with a grateful heart, knowing that spirit is the source and substance of all supply. I joyfully participate in the circulation of abundance. My offering blesses the world and returns to me multiplied. That's the best part. I am grateful and I am prosperous, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you for that. So pretty much the same messages. We're going or we'll have our Monday evening prayer group, which has been really spectacular, by the way. But we've had some really good good sessions. And then Tuesday we're going to do, I can't remember what chapter it is. I want to say 18, but I'm not sure. It's self for our Tuesday evening discussion group. We've been having a real good time with that. And the next book that we're going to do is Radical Compassion by Tara Brach, which it's kind of a shift. We've been doing a lot of stuff that's pretty much the mechanics of creative law, although not only, but Tara is very touchy-feely with compassion, so that should be a shift for us. And it's good it keeps us well-rounded. So, and then the first Sunday in June, we will be down at Ohm, which is fun. I think that month we're talking a lot about love, so I'm guessing we'll be talking about love. Good thing to talk about. And let's see, Ralane, you don't have another prayer group until June. Am I right about that?
No, we have a prayer circle coming up this week.
Oh, okay, my bad.
That's okay. This Wednesday at 10 o'clock coming up, we have our usual prayer circle. And then the following week, I believe, is the Joyous Expectancy of Being Me. That's the last Wednesday of the month. And that is
I think it's the 27th.
27th. Thank you, Michelle. And that's at 6 o'clock. So,
that's fun too.
Yeah. So there you have it.
All right. Thank you for that. So that's all we have for announcements. And let's see. I think I'm going to come back to you, Rob, to do the benediction, and then I have one last song.
All right. Well, leave us settle back into our chairs or wherever we are, and just let the goodness of God in. Let the experience of God in. Let the love and the peace and the joy in. And as we do this, the presence of God becomes more and more obvious. And the wonderful part of that is the more obvious God is in our lives, the more undeniable the presence of God is, the easier it is to have faith, to know that that which we declare is law, that it is set in stone and it is coming to us. It is, and we declare that it is here right now. And so I say right now that for everyone within the sound of my voice, that the goodness of God is becoming more and more and more obvious. The faith in God is easier and easier and easier, and our power as people who put their word into the force of God and create change in their life becomes more and more a given, a thing that is absolutely relied upon and reliable and always there. And we love that this is true. I am so grateful that this is true. I am grateful for this opportunity to come together to share, and this opportunity to participate and to enjoy what Ralane has to say and what Michelle has to say, and to benefit this week from what we have learned here. Thank you, God, for the goodness of this, of One Heart, One Mind, and for the goodness of each and every one of us. I declare this is so. I release my word, and together we say, and so it is.
Oh, thank you. That was beautiful. Really lovely. Okay, so this is our friend Karen. Everybody loves Karen. All right, let me see it. I'm just doing the just the sound this time because it's not a video.
I promise in this moment I am great to keep my heart wide open. I am great with every breath I am grateful. I am great, I promise in this moment I am great to keep my heart wide open. I am great with every breath I take. I am grateful. I am great, I promise in this moment I am great to keep my heart wide open. I am great with every breath I am grateful. Thank you. I am great, I promise in this moment I am great to keep my heart wide open. I am great with every breath. Thank you. I am grateful. Thank you. I am great, I promise in this moment I am great to keep my heart wide open. I am great with every breath. Thank you. I am grateful. Thank you. I am great, I promise.
Gratitude always feels like the best way to end a service. So I thought we would do that. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and turn off our recording. Say goodbye to our replay listeners. I think I just paused. Let me completely stop it.